So today I'm going to do something kind of exciting. I'm going to pull a good bit of the XREAS, XREAS, whatever suspension stuff off. Basically all this stuff that's hanging down. So I'm going to get that out of our way. I'm going to leave the shocks in for now so that that's not causing any issues. But I want to get this out of the way so I can start working on the tubes that I'm going to put in that will tie our roll cage into our frame. So there's going to be tubes coming down from each sandwich plate to the frame. But with all this line in the way, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But I watched a video that, I forget who posted it. I'll put some text in the video. But they did a whole write-up on how to remove the X-ray stuff. It's actually really easy. Basically you just need a few simple tools and some safety glasses so that you don't get shock fluid in your eyes if it is to make a mess. But our shocks have been leaking a bunch, so I don't think ours will even really be that messy. But yeah, I'm gonna get to it. Today we are pulling the gas tank and committing to getting it running on the fuel cell. We have a bunch of stuff from Hot Rod Fuel Hose to plumb up. We bought some stuff from Jags, and we should have everything that we need to get it working, but we're gonna figure it out, get it done.
Right at the top.
Yeah, it's just like the same.
Which I can do right here,
fender?
actually. Yeah. Do you want to hand me that 10 mil? Don't make fun of my hat.
I think it works great.
It does.
Oh, there it is. That idea. Oh!
That's the send line.
X-rayed. This was my nice mat to lay on.
It'll evaporate.
It definitely has a lot more gas than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna fall.
Let's set down one end.
I heard a bad
Should we just
thought
let
now.
it go?
Uh-oh.
Let's just let it set down. Should I try and pull this?
It's coming.
Are we stuck on anything? I don't know. Oh god.
Uh-oh.
That way it's not just dumping.
Oh, we're stuck on, we got like 2 lines, three lines.
Oh, it's better.
Let's let it hang from those. Yeah. All right, well, it's mostly off.
That'll do. Cool.
Go.
Look, our 4-link will go somewhere in here. Haha. Weight reduction. Got it out, but
There's definitely
that's
a lot
like
of fuel.
easily 5 gallons, if not more.
Yeah. It's been on below empty since like 4 months ago.
Yeah, we've been on the fuel
Gallons.
for a hot sec.
So we just laid out our fuel system and all the fittings and whatnot. We think we got it set up right. So we've got our vent that's gonna come right off of here into our check valve and then to a little filter. All the orange fittings we're using as the send line. So coming off the pickup into here, the filter is gonna be right here into the pump. And then this is what's gonna connect to the stock line on the frame. And then right next to that for the return, there's no quick connector that fits up to that, so we have to use a little hose barb, just connect it to the nipple right there. And then that's gonna run straight back into the tank. And that should do it. Hopefully that's everything we need. Let's see if we can get it plumbed up.
I'm going to show you how to set up and fittings on braided fuel hose. These are dash 8 fittings. Some of the things you'll need are a screwdriver. You're going to need wrenches for the size fittings you're using. We're using a box cutter, some masking tape, and some cutters to cut the line easily, but you can also use an angle grinder or some other kind of cutter. So the first thing you need to do is determine the length of the hose you're going to need, and then you're going to want to put masking tape where you're going to be cutting it. And all the masking tape is going to do is make sure that when you cut it, your braided, the nylon doesn't go everywhere. When you're cutting your line, make sure you make a nice straight cut. Once you cut it, you'll want to take a screwdriver or a marker or something, and you'll actually want to round this back out since we kind of pinched it a little bit. This will just help you slide everything on and make your connection a little easier. Now you can take apart your fitting that you're going to be using. There's going to be 3 pieces. The first piece is the part that actually goes on the outside of your hose and slides over it. The next piece is your ferrule, and this is what goes inside and it's what makes your seal. And then you have your actual fitting piece that attaches to your accessories, and that goes inside the plastic portion of your line. You used a lot of tape. When you tape this up to cut it, you're going to want to take off any excess tape. You're just going to want to keep enough so that your nylon isn't fraying. That way you're not trying to push this over a bunch of extra tape. So the next step is to slide this piece over the line, and this is actually one of the hardest parts because it's extremely tight as it's designed that way. But if you twist it while you're pushing it on, it makes it a lot easier. You can kind of pretend that it's threaded. So once you get it pretty far and you can see it poking through, you can push it down on a table or in a vise, and you'll be able to push it through even further, and it makes it just a little easier. And then you're going to work it past where you're going to be, and you can pull your tape off. We'll pull this back up towards the end, and then we'll trim off some of this excess nylon around our hose. All right, now that we have that on and trimmed up, we'll go over to the vise and install the rest of this. So we're using vise jaws, which makes this whole process way easier because it holds onto your hose and your fitting for you. All right, so the next step is going to be putting your ferrule over the plastic portion of your line, and make sure that your taper goes towards your hose. Then we're going to be sliding the fitting inside your line, and this part is kind of stiff as well, so you can use the same method as before and twist it as if you're threading it into your hose. So now the next step is going to be starting your threads on your fitting. So you can kind of pull your line through that outer piece, and then you can start this thread with your fingers so that you're not cross-threading anything. So once you have it started, you can use a wrench and tighten this all the way on. You're going to want to leave a 1 millimeter gap. If everything's done properly, your fitting should be nice and tight. Your pieces should be lined up so it looks good, and you'll be able to attach your hose to whatever fitting you need. Good. So now we're going to figure out how long our fuel line needs to be for our fuel cell. So we're going to do a little bit of rough routing of this. Oh, it smells like gasoline. So like here maybe?
So
yeah, like right
you
here.
go across and then, well, because it's going to come up in the middle with the send.
Is it coming up in the middle, or is it going to come like kind of out and then around behind it? Get everything mocked up.
Switch. Go to, let's see, that's the pickup. So this one?
Yeah, that's it. Our return line is cut to length, and our fittings are on.
Oh,
Things falling over.
This is going here, this goes into the pump, and then pump So we have our fuel cell mostly plumbed. We got the fuel pump and the fuel filter in right here. All the lines are in. They go to the hard line connection by the frame. The only things we're waiting on to be able to start it are electrical, and I guess really that's it to start it. But then on the final version, we're gonna need our filler neck. The rollover vent needs to get routed up and up around, but otherwise this is 3/4 of it, I'd say.
Race car things. Got the fuel cell all cleaned out. This fuel cell was used, so it used to be filled with diesel. So wiped everything out, flushed it with some fresh gasoline. Hayden's wiring our fuel pump over here. And we're gonna test it out. Hopefully have this thing driving off the fuel cell today. But we'll see. Hopefully everything's wired up right, and we'll get it to start.
Here she goes.
First fill up.
Nothing? Okay, right now this shouldn't do anything. Okay, that's the driver. So put...
Should I try and start it?
Give it a second, just like keep running.
Check for leaks or anything? We are?
Yep.
It's like, what is leaking?
Oh, no leak.
Okay.
Yeah, go for like 5 gallons probably.